study areas. So I'm zooming out a little bit to look about the overall, let's say, courses that we have and study areas. So Marangoni started as a fashion school, which is what you read on the left. But Marangoni will really focus on luxury from a creative standpoint. And luxury is not just about fashion, but it's a combination of many different areas and topics that converge into the world of luxury. So that's why we're talking about fashion, we're talking about design, we're talking about art, and we're talking about beauty. Let's start with fashion, okay? What is fashion? Most people, when they think of fashion, they think about one thing, and that is fashion design. But fashion is an industry. Fashion is an ecosystem. Fashion is a world. And fashion is not just fashion design. But let's think about, okay, let's divide fashion into three main areas, okay? So there are three majors within the world of fashion. Typical question I get from students is, which is the best or which is the most important? It really depends. And maybe here in the next 5 minutes, I try to help you a little bit in understanding which major within fashion is good for you. Because if actually you do a mistake, you're probably going to lose 1 year of your bachelor's if we're looking at a BA, because the three majors are very, very different. You have fashion design, fashion communication and image, previously called fashion styling, and then we have fashion business. What is fashion design? Fashion design is a creative course where we teach you how to sketch, design, prototype, and create clothing or accessories, whether it's menswear or women's wear, shoes, bags, so on and so forth. This is creative because you're actually going to learn the techniques and you're gonna make things. So if you like fashion and you have a good idea that sketching and design is interesting to you, fashion design could be interesting. But if you're interested in fashion and you don't see yourself sketching and designing for dozens of hours every week, fashion design is not the right major for you. If you study fashion design, you don't just become a fashion designer. There are a lot of jobs within this specific category of fashion. That can be a trend forecaster, it can be a fashion consultant, can be a product manager, can be an illustrator. So a lot of different subcategories within fashion design. Again, here you learn how to sketch, design, create clothing and or accessories. What is the meaning of accessories? Bags and shoes. These are the two most important categories of accessories. Let's say that you feel actually yourself as a creative person, but you're not interested in sketching and designing, which is absolutely possible. I will never be able to design, for example. I'm a business person. But let's say that you're creative and you don't like numbers, but at the same time, you don't like sketching and designing. What can you do? Well, the answer is fashion communication and image. It is still a creative study area, but here you don't sketch, you do not design. Here you learn how to use different media to communicate the message, to communicate the DNA, the message of a collection. Let's make a practical example. The designer will sketch and design, let's say, I don't know, cardigans. Let's say the clothes I have right now. I have a wool cardigan on me. Shanghai is cold. And so, choosing the fabric, choosing the colors, choosing the size, so on and so forth, is the creative job of the design department. But then we want to sell this. So what do? We're going to write articles on major outlets like Vogue, on Harper's Bazaar. We want actually to have a runway, which means a fashion show. And what about the lightnings? What about the models? What about the music that will be played? Or, for example, we want to shoot a video of this collection. Who is in charge of this? the people that come from the communication and image department. So designers make, but then how to communicate the visuals, the video, the colors, the lighting, the media used to talk about a collection, that is the job of the styling or creative direction department. You probably know the meaning of creative director. Creative director is kind of the brain of a brand. You saw in the video before, the guy with glasses is the creative director at Zegna, which is one of the most successful luxury brands in menswear. And the creative director actually studied in Marangoni, Milan. Or the previous creative director of Versace is also Marangoni alumni who studied in Milan. So again, you can be creative and work in fashion, even if you don't like to sketch and design. So communication and image is a bit of a blend of a creative and business person that curates the image, the visuals, the video of a brand. Hope that this helps a little bit figuring this out. Because actually, communication and image is sometimes not well known because students and families know quite well fashion design and fashion business. In the middle, you have communication and image. Let's say now that maybe you're a person a little bit like me. So you like fashion, you're interested in the fashion world, in the luxury market, but you don't sketch and you're not very much into media. You're perhaps a finance guy, or you're interested in numbers. You're interested in understanding the mechanisms of business. Well, you can still be absolutely successful in fashion. Why? Fashion is an industry. Fashion needs creative people and business people. One cannot do without the other. They are equally important. So, for example, what do you learn in fashion business? It's an economics, it's a business major. So you're going to do case studies. You're going to learn about sales. You're going to learn about supply chain management. You're going to learn about finance. You're going to learn about digital marketing. You're going to learn about operations. So everything that is connected to economics and business, but instead of being applied to a multitude of industries, you're gonna be focused on the fashion and luxury industry. So you like numbers, but don't feel like you're into the creative part, you can work, so study first and then work in the business environment. So for example, both at bachelor's and master's level, if you apply to fashion design, a portfolio is needed. If you apply to fashion communication and image, a portfolio is needed. If you apply to fashion business, we do not require a portfolio. What we require at bachelor's level will be an essay. You have to do an analysis, and of course, we can help you in thinking a little bit which different categories could be done, but it's a business case. Again, you don't need to create a portfolio. Portfolio is for creative courses. Now, let's move 1 second to the second area. So at the beginning, I talked about fashion. Fashion is present in every single school of Istituto Marangoni, from Florence to Mumbai, from Milan to Paris. But then we have a second area that is very much creative, but it's a different type of design. Here, I mean interior, product, and visual design. These three majors are present in the most important capitals of design, which are actually Milan, number one, followed by London, and Dubai is becoming very, very important, especially from a luxury, interior luxury design perspective. Also here, three, magic number, there are three majors within the design world. Interior, product, and visual. Interior is about, well, spaces, where actually, internal spaces that can be used by customers and companies alike. And actually, there's a very strict correlation between fashion and interior design. So, for example, few brands that our students work with during our interior design bachelor last year were actually companies like Chanel and even Gucci. Why? Because the retail space of a luxury brand is designed by interior designer. Of course, here We're talking about a creative major and portfolio is needed. But let's say you're not too much interested into the space, but you really like to focus on product. And product, we mean especially furniture and small products. Milan is probably the most important city in the world from a product design perspective. And again, also here, a portfolio is needed. If you're more into communication and visual and graphic design, so you're not specific to either a space or a product, then of course there is visual design, where basically you learn how to communicate, how to use language and storytelling to talk about many different topics. Then we have art, and art is a little bit of a niche area at Istituto Marangoni, because art only happens in Florence. Why? Florence, about 500 years ago, was at the very center of the Renaissance period. And Florence, I don't know if any of you has been to Florence before, but Florence is a kind of open museum. It's a city that doesn't matter where you go, you really feel you're in kind of a museum. So you really breathe the artistic atmosphere. So, for example, in Istituto Marangoni Florence, the two study areas present are fashion and art. Art, what does it mean at Istituto Marangoni? So we have multimedia art, where basically you learn a mix of digital and traditional offline, I would say, media to create artistic content, which is not just related to fashion. So here you can become an artist. You can become also a videographer or photographer. And you can also become a designer from different perspectives, but we really focus on VR. At Istituto Marangoni Florence, for example, art students and fashion students very much often work together for the final fashion show, where together with the runway, so the catwalk, there are going to be artistic products, or let's say designs as well, because they can be digital, during an exhibition before or during the fashion show. Arts curating and management is more of a business course related to art, because here it's about understanding how to manage, how to curate exhibitions and products, because arts management is a very important part of the industry. Like fashion, it's not just about creating something. It's about everything else as well. How do you communicate? And also, how do you maybe make a profit out of something? Fragrances, or let's say beauty, that perhaps is easier to understand. About 4 years ago, a lot of companies have come to Marangoni and been telling us, please start courses related to beauty area. Let's name some luxury brands: Valentino, Versace, Dior, Ferragamo, Prada. All these brands have a beauty division. I don't know if you've ever been into an airport. I guess you did. When you go to an airport, you always pass through a beauty area. And the brands that you read there are all the luxury brands that come to mind. Ferragamo is not famous for beauty products, but they have beauty products. Prada is famous for clothes and accessories, but they have an incredible, strong beauty product line. Companies in the last few years have been making more money out of their beauty products rather than clothes and accessories. Why? Many reasons. And I could talk 1 hour, which I'm not going to do, about beauty. But the point is, luxury brands, you really use the beauty department to drive through sales, to engage with customers, and to branch out outside their core products. But how do you create a perfume for Prada? But even more important, how do you choose the color, the packaging? How do you choose how to match the perfume with the products? This is actually a business study area. This is not chemistry. We don't teach you how to create and blend different raw materials, because for that you need to study chemistry. But luxury brands have a problem. They cannot find people that understand fashion, luxury, and beauty. So these courses here are business courses that do exactly that. They train you in connecting the world of beauty, that for us it means fragrances, perfumes, and cosmetics, together with fashion brands. Why? Prada makes more money, I want to repeat this, with beauty lines than clothes and accessories. Dolce & Gabbana makes more money with the beauty products rather than clothes and accessories. Beauty products are necessary to increase engagement with customers and to get customers that perhaps right now don't want or cannot get certain products. And remember, if you buy a perfume from Tom Ford, 3 months later, you're probably going to buy it again because it finishes. So these are courses that are related to the business area, but we are focusing specific on beauty products. Now, let's talk a little bit about the academic offering. There are 3 main areas of courses, again, at Istituto Marangoni: undergraduate, postgraduate, and short courses. Undergraduate, what does that mean? So, of course, we have the foundation course, and we have it in fashion, and we have it in design. Why? I said before that for fashion, there are 3 majors. For design, there are 3 majors. So once you choose which major is right for you, well, you're going to be there. If you start fashion design and 8 months later you realize that business was the right one for you, you lost 1 year of your life. I say this often to students and parents all over Asia, because I work from Mongolia to Australia, that understanding the major is super important, because losing 1 year of your life is a problem. So if you know which major you want to do, great. But perhaps if you're not sure between fashion design and communication and image, a foundation could be interesting. Why? Because if you do the foundation in fashion, you're going to learn a bit of fashion design, a bit of fashion communication and image, and a bit of business. And then you can actually understand and figure out which is the right major for you. Same thing for design. You learn a bit of product, a bit of visual, and a bit of interior design. Then we have, of course, the bachelor's. And here you see bachelor's degree in 3-year courses, because bachelor is, let's say, the British way. But if we're in Italy, we say 3-year courses. And at Marangoni, the bachelor is 3 years. Some countries it's 4, and Marangoni it's 3. The only way that you could do 4 years bachelor's, it's actually in London, and it's still Marangoni London, because we have a particular system that is called sandwich year. What does that mean? First year of the BA you study, second year of the BA you study, third year you do a 1-year placement or internship, and fourth year you finish your bachelor. This is available in London, and it's optional. But if you want to do a bachelor, you qualify for a bachelor, no matter what that is, it's 3 years. Then semesters could be interesting. Let's say that maybe some of you attending today are already attending a bachelor's in Vietnam. At Istituto Marangoni, it is actually possible to do a semester during our year 2 of the bachelor. That means you could do the first half of year 2 or the second half of year 2 at Istituto Marangoni. So again, you might be studying locally, domestically, but you want to experience Paris for half a year, or you want to perhaps experience Milan half year. That is absolutely possible. So you don't want to do the whole course in Europe, you could do part of it. So let's say maybe you do your BA in Hanoi, but then you do a semester in Paris, and then you might do the master's later on in London or Milan. So to give you an idea. What is the 1-year or intensive course? Sometimes parents do not allow their children to study fashion or art or design. Because some parents are very traditional. So they're like, you study law, you study architecture, you study medicine, or you study engineering. This happens very often in all over Asia. But let's say that maybe your passion was actually fashion, but now you have a bachelor's in architecture. What can you do now? You don't want to do a bachelor again. Why? You're maybe 23. You're not going to study again 3 years, because you're going to be with people who are, 18. And you're mature, you don't want to do again an undergraduate course. At the same time, you cannot do a master's, because you have a BA in architecture or law. How can you do a master in fashion buying and merchandising? How can you do a master in product design? You can't. That's why we created the intensive or 1-year course. So in 1 year, you learn all the most important topics of a bachelor. So basically in 1 year, you learn what usually people learn in 3 years. And this course is a little bit advanced because we're actually targeting people that have a BA from a non-related major. Again, that could be medicine, law, architecture, doesn't matter. And after this, of course, if you're good enough, you can then apply for a master's if you want to. So typical example, you have law, a BA in law, then you do maybe the 1 year in fashion design, then you can go back to Vietnam and work maybe in the fashion industry. Or if you feel that you want to specialize further, then you can do the master. So again, the 1 year is used for someone that already has a BA from another subject, but now you want to step into fashion or design. Then postgraduate programs or masters. We have a bit of everything. Again, here we have the semester. So perhaps, you're doing the master locally, but you want to do part of the master in Europe. That is a possibility. Then we have master courses that London and Paris, they are, for example, London, Paris, and Milan. We have 15-month programs, or let's say 1 year. We also have 2-year master's programs only happening in Italy, just because the Italian system is a little bit different. And we even have an MBA, which is happening in London. Short courses are for, let's say, they're basic. So let's say, for example, that you're in high school or you just finished high school and you're not sure between London and Paris or Milan. We have short courses in every possible subject, from fashion draping to interior design, from luxury to digital storytelling. There are courses from 1 to 4 weeks, and you can experience Paris or Dubai or Shanghai to get a glimpse. These, again, are not for professionals, but they are, let's say, at junior level. Let's talk a little bit about the application without going too much in detail because it will be annoying, but to give you an idea. First of all, think about this. No matter if it's a bachelor or a master, the most important thing for your application, if you're doing a creative course, is your portfolio. Portfolio is the most important piece of document that we use to assess your application for creative courses again. And you will read here 6 creative ideas, because if you're applying for a bachelor, we want to see at least 6 projects. Then again, let's talk about the English language certificate. I mentioned at the beginning that you don't need to speak French or Italian to study Istituto Marangoni. English is the official language, no matter where you go. That could be Milan or Paris or other places. At UG level, undergraduate level, what we need for English is a level of B1 or equivalent. So of course, IELTS, TOEFL, and the equivalents are great, but in terms of level, it's B1. And this is what we need for Italy. Well, actually, for London and Paris, we need a little bit higher. It's a B2. And the reason is related to the visa. It has nothing, it doesn't have anything to do with, let's say, what you do at school. But from a visa requirement, Italy is a little bit leaner and easier than Paris and the UK. Then, of course, we need a signed personal statement that perhaps I will give to the Leap Vietnam team maybe tips on how to write a personal statement that works at Istituto Marangoni. Of course, high school diploma is necessary. Depending on the type of high school diploma that you receive, you may have to go through foundation, where either times you can go directly to bachelor. And then there is a skill test, which is multiple choice questions that you can do online for all our bachelor programs. For the foundation or 1 year intensive course, what we need again is the personal statement. Here, we don't need a portfolio. So if you're applying for a 1 year course or foundation, portfolio is not needed. What we need is the personal statement. And of course, there is a minimum of B1 English level. For short courses, there is no specific requirement because short courses at Istituto Marangoni are for beginners. So short courses, in your case, will be used to understand which major you like and which city is of interest. Master programs. Master programs, the most important thing is the relevance. If you come from economics, maybe you did a bachelor in business and then you want to do a master in fashion design, that won't be possible. So the most important thing is the relevance of study. You come from a business background, you're going into maybe different, but masters in the business area. CV would be important for the master's application because depending on the master's, work experience could be very important. Probably if you know Marangoni, you heard about the masters in luxury brand management. Luxury brand management masters is the most, I would say, famous masters we have in the business area. If you come from a pure business background, great. If you don't, it would be important to see in your CV work experience related to fashion and luxury. That would be kind of a requirement that our program leader will check. Reference letters are necessary for masters, and we will need one academic and one, let's say, work related. If you don't have work experience, of course, then it would be 2 academics. But then, of course, again, depending on the type of masters, having a little bit of work experience is important. If you have time and chance, please go to work temporarily in a retail location. That will give you very good insights about what happens on the floor and will strengthen your CV when you're applying.